and welcome back to Informally Formal. We have with us Mr. Asif Ibrahim, who needs no introduction in Bangladesh. He is past president of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, currently sits on the board of BGMEA that accounts for 84% of the export basket and export earnings in Bangladesh. He also currently serves as the chairman of the Chittagong Stock Exchange. So without further ado, Asif, a very warm welcome back to the show.
Hi, Akber. How are you doing? Yeah, it's been a while.
What I wanted to talk to you about is the current and future challenges in the Bangladesh textile and clothing sector. And just for our audience, you're also the vice chairman of New Age Industries in that segment. So you are someone that is very much in the know, in the forefront of the challenges that this industry faces. So let me get into my first question right away, Asif. You know, when this whole thing started back in March, we immediately knew the parallels that it could possibly have with the Spanish flu of 1918. But then a few months later, it seemed as if things are getting back to normal. So people were kind of a little excited. You know, we had bad months of March, April, and May. And then in June on, it started picking up and stuff. But as you very well know, the second wave has hit and has hit very hard, especially in the United States, also in Europe, France, Germany. They're all reeling from the effects of the second wave. And obviously now, I'm just getting the stage, Asif, before, of course, we want to hear from you. But when we have a pandemic of the nature that we see right now, obviously, most businesses get shut down. Not all of it gets transferred into online transactions. So there is a automatic reduction in, demand. And since we rely on the demand in the Western world, obviously we get affected. So that goes without saying. Tell our audience where we stand in terms of the situation with our largest export.
You talked about, when it first started in April, May, and June. If you compare year to year from 2019 to 2020, these 3 months, consecutively, it was minus 85%, minus 63%, and minus 11.5% for these 3 months, April, May, and June. So, and then you said that, yes, it started to gradually bounce back up a little bit. However, because of the second wave, again, things are looking quite bleak. As a matter of fact, if you compare the export trend of this sector, starting from say 2000 onwards up to 2020, the last 20 years, actually in the year 2019, 2020, the ready-made garments export performance has been the lowest ever. It went down to minus 18%. So that is, that is also quite worrisome, and that this is all because of the effect of the pandemic. The free fall in exports basically meant that we basically, it was about $6.3 billion if you, quantify it. And this is about 1/5 of our export of last year, the total export. So you can say that it's almost 20%. So we lost about $3.73 billion worth of export just in last quarter, which is April to June 2020. So you can see the effect that it has had on, the pandemic has had on our exports. And it is very, very worrisome that second wave is coming in. If you look at by the region, for the cancellations and the orders which were kept on hold by the buyers, we experienced about $52 million of cancellations from Canada, about almost $500 million, $574 million worth of cancellations from USA. We experienced about $1.9 billion worth of cancellations and held orders from Europe, and about $620 million of cancellations from non-traditional markets. So these actually, when you put them all together, it makes a very, very deep impact on the sector. Apart from that also, just not only because of the cancellation, naturally cancellations causes financial losses to the suppliers, but there has been issues of non-payment by buyers for committed orders. That is also a big problem. They are asking for discounts. They're asking for deferred payments and they're asking for, they're saying that, okay, your goods are back, now you have to give 50% discount, we won't take the goods. So pressure tactics are being applied because they're not being able to sell. They're shifting the blame to the suppliers in our country, and not only in our country, but across the world. Because the value chain, the global value chain, particularly for least developed countries and developed economies, how the whole story, how we are in the wrong end of the bargaining capacity, if you put it that way.
Right.
And of course, there had to be significant investments to be made in health protocol, but that is okay. We had to make our factory safe for the workers to come back and start working. We took an approach of opening very gradually. We took a staggered approach. We only allowed about 30% of our workers to come in initially, and then we eventually went back into production. You see, but if you remember, Akber, when the factory started opening I think the second week of April, if I remember correctly, there was a lot of hoopla in the media and in the civil society that, oh my God, the RMG factories are opening, what's going to happen? But if you look at the figures of the infection rate amongst the ready-made garment sector workers, it's really, really probably the least in the country. So we can say that the measures that were taken by the factories were quite effective in that respect.
When it first started, Asif, right away we saw a cancellation across the board of about 3.15 billion. Now, 90% of them, at some point or another, through deferments and deferrals and what have you, and some in reduced prices and what have you, as per BGMEA, as per your organization, 90% of it somehow came back. So that's one side of the picture. So now, just to say that 90% of it came back would not be absolutely accurate, because a lot of them came with different terms. So, but nevertheless, it happened. Now, what we're seeing right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Asif, what we're seeing right now, because when buyers cancel something outright, obviously the suppliers cry foul, obviously. So now what they're doing is, instead of canceling, ordering and then canceling, what they're doing is deferring to begin with, number one. And number two, they're ordering less. There was a survey that was conducted which showed that there is, on average, about 30% less in orders. Are you aware of that survey?
You see, the thing is that during the first wave, you mentioned $3.15 billion. That was done based on a survey which was spontaneously participated by a lot of the members. But unfortunately, this time around, when we asked for the numbers, there has been pressure put on the suppliers from the buyers not to disclose the names and also the quantities. So this time around, to get to the correct figure, we are having some sort of difficulty. But you're right when you say, on a broader scale, deferments and placing lesser orders is very much there. So that is a big concern. You see, and right now, usually particularly in the United States of America, retail shops actually go into profits after the sales for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and that period is already almost there. So one really doesn't know how the impact will be post Christmas. The orders which were supposed to be placed to be in the stores in USA for, say, for next year, March, April, May, June, they would be in production in Bangladesh factories right now. But because of this slowdown again and the second wave, maybe we anticipate that it may be a little bit bleak, the situation. Anyway, let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what happens, because it's really we really have our backs against the wall right now.
Right. Asif, absolutely. Goes without saying that there is going to be an impact. I mean, there is going to, and like you mentioned about the Black Friday is when all retailers basically go into the black finally from red, the Black Friday sale. So that, and then of course infection rates in America are hovering around 230,000 a day with deaths over 3,000. So I can only imagine that it's going to be a rather bleak Christmas.
Yes.
I would
You
think.
see, you mentioned about the bouncing back because of the stimulus and assistance and our negotiations with the buyers initially, to, bring it down to 90% of $3.15 billion. We could see that after a severe downturn from April, May, and June and July, August and September actually experienced 2.5% and 3% growth. But then again, because of the second wave, in November, we are seeing 2.66% negative. October was also about 7.7% negative. So you can see that, the prediction and the uncertainty that is existing in the West in the European Union and USA in particular, it's affecting the capacity allocation and the commitment of a capacity allocation also. Usually, the suppliers are given 4 or 5 months capacity booking. That is also being affected right now. So that is also a concern for us going forward.
Let me now switch gears and go into the moratorium that was placed by the government on loan payment.
Right.
The 2,500 crore per month for 4 months that the government announced at the very onset. Then the payment terms of 2 years that now your organization is saying that, the moratorium for 6 months, take it to a year, and the return term, take it from 2 years to make it 5 years. So your comments on that?
You see, Akber, what we need to do is basically seeing what's in the horizon. We have asked for an extension of the term of the stimulus package, and we are reevaluating the needs of the industry right now in the backdrop of the second wave, which has come, and of course the global economy. What happens there? We also need very seriously to think about legal protections, because we feel that we are quite vulnerable in that area. Right now, legal protection to deal with bankrupted buyers who, you have heard the names, big brands who've been there for years and years, they've gone bankrupt. We have to develop insolvency resolution for our own protection. We don't have that. We don't have that mechanism fully in place. And we have to have a system of loss financing mechanism to deal with the forced loans that are being created because of the inability of these companies for not being able to sustain these financial pressures because of these cancellations, these held orders, discounts, the bankruptcy of the buyers, and this, that, and the other.
Right.
So naturally, it's a mix of things. It's a mixed basket of things that we have to look at in terms of going forward. And on a short-term basis, that's all we can say, that the need that the BGMA president has mentioned is basically analyzing the short-term requirements. But this time around, we really can't see. Like last time, we could get back the 90% of the orders. This time, it's a little bit uncertain than that.
Yeah, exactly, Asif. Like I mentioned, that it was cancellations and then trying to bring it back. But now buyers have become, what they're doing is not even placing the orders or deferring it. What they were supposed to order now, they're saying now, okay, defer it to April or what have you. So it's a different scenario altogether, makes it a lot more uncertain. And also two different things here, Asif, that you mentioned. Let me just quickly make sure that we understand. One is extension of the loan repayment and the term, okay? From 6 months to 1 year and from 2 years to 5 years. That's one. And then, of course, I hear you very clearly when you're talking about that forced loan, that I know you guys are also talking to Bangladesh Bank and the government. When foreign buyers go into a receivership or bankruptcy, it creates a tremendous undue pressure on the suppliers over here. That needs to be relooked at, and some relief ought to be put in place as far as that goes. I'm going to now switch gears real quickly. So we know one of our competitors, Ethiopia, now is in quite a bit of geopolitical turmoil. So not that we would wish it on any country, but that creates an avenue for us, just the same as, the trade war between United States and China potentially created, not that we saw very much come from it, but potentially created some avenue. Cambodia recently lost their GSP facility, so that's there. But Vietnam, even though they have a tremendously diversified export basket with about almost $300 billion in exports, RMG is not their biggest percentage-wise, big piece of the pie. Nevertheless, if you look at it from that standpoint, China, which controls about 30% of the RMG, but that's minuscule compared to their export basket. But that doesn't mean they're giving up on that, right? So Vietnam, I believe, still is a major competitor. So your views on that?
Yes, you see, we have to look forward beyond this pandemic, how this industry is going to be sustainable from Bangladesh's perspective. And we feel that we have to change a little bit of our mindset in terms of projecting ourselves in the global arena. Hence, we are thinking of strategically going with 7 pledges towards a much greener and a much humane industry, which is encompassed with one single idea, which is go human and go green. And in those 7 pledges, we are thinking of a pledge for workers' education, a pledge for workers' children's education, a pledge for mental health, a pledge for overall sustainability. You're talking about circular economy and raw materials, going for those, environment and all those areas. Then a pledge for tradition and heritage. We want to export the culture. It's been 40 years. It's about time that we start branding the core products of Bangladesh internationally. And because of the exposure that we have, as second largest garment exporter of the world, we should take advantage of exporting our culture through this industry to the world by this pledge for tradition and heritage. And we should also pledge for the health of the workers. That is a very big commitment. And of course, we have to pledge for efficiency because if we want to remain competitive, we have to focus on that. So these are the 7 pledges that we have thought of strategically from the association, which will be required going forward for us to be able to really become sustainable in the global context.
Right. Asif, when I talked to Dr. Rubana Haq, I quite liked the go human, go green slogan. And the 7 pledges, that you talk about, I couldn't agree with you more. This is, we have been in this for many decades, and there is no reason why we should not have our own branding and much more vocal branding in the outside arena, and as such garner a fair price for our products, because the buyers ought to really be a partner rather than every turn they take is negotiating for another cent, Right, exactly. So in overall health of this entire segment. So Asif, once again, we very quickly run out of time, but I think we have covered the major areas, and I wish you and your organization all the best in fulfilling the 7 pledges. And I think you guys have a very good team. So I wish you all the best. And thank you so very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Look forward to, I reserve the right to bring you back many more times to pick your brain on many different.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, Asif. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And I sign off right here. Stay safe. See you next time. Bye-bye.